Alright, just a real quick follow-up here about the game tonight. One of the things that I forgot to mention in the last video was about the Mets and the number 55 a little bit. Queen Elizabeth, I've talked about how she's connected to both the teams. She does add up to the same thing as New York Mets, but she was born in 1926, and in 1955, she was 29 years old. And literally, the last time that the Mets won the World Series was in 1986, which is 29 years ago. So, interesting, the Queen was 29 in 1955, and the last time the Mets won the World Series was 29 years ago. And I've just been seeing the number 55 a lot in these games. I also still think the Royals are going to win it, but wanted to point out, so this is the day that she became the longest reigning British monarch ever. And if you go to the day that I think that the World Series is going to end is 11/3, the Back to the Future day. It's a span of 55 days, so who knows? Interesting, it could be coded with the Mets, because also this day, 11 plus 3 plus 15 even adds up to 29. So, interesting. Also, maybe I'll have to watch it again. I didn't notice any 55 things in this game. I did notice some 2-2-2 stuff, but right here in the 5th inning, they went to this deal for I stand for cancer or whatever, and they were talking about these guys all wrote Webby or Bill Webb or whatever, for it was like a New York Mets dude who has cancer. And it was just interesting they had all this, and it was all in the 5th inning. Interesting, too, it talks about Webb here, and it says, anyone who knows Webb, who has also directed Mets telecasts for what seems like forever, the last 10 years, from a Sportsnet New York's production truck, damn well knows cancer now has a major fight on its hands. Well, come on now. The power or whatever went out because of the truck or whatever. And then this guy worked in a truck for 10 years. I mean, come on, doesn't that seem odd? And it's in the 5th inning. And if you do his full name in gematria, William Webb, it adds up to 111. The 111th World Series. Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day of the year. Queen Elizabeth, I'll just type it in here again here. Queen Elizabeth adds up to 168, just like the New York Mets. And honestly, one of the biggest, most rigged plays in this game tonight was when Franklin Morales came in to pitch, and he pitched or whatever, and the ball came right to him, and he acted like he had no idea what to do. He looked like a little kid out there playing baseball, and then he threw it away to second, almost win the outfield. I mean, just the most ridiculous play you ever see by this is the World Series. Come on now. No way that would really happen. But anyway, it was his 22nd pitch, and then when that happened, and then they took him out of the game, but it was 22nd. He wears number 45, but check out the gematria of his name. 168. Interesting. And so, it was 2-2, his 22nd pitch, and that's interesting because earlier in the game, they pretty much foreshadowed the same numbers in the 2nd inning. And the reason 45 or 54 is so significant is because literally game 1 was 5-4. And remember, I said in game 2, the Kansas City scored 4 runs in the 5th, and that was like a big thing. That was like pretty much a huge factor of the game. So 5-4 in the first game, and then they scored 4 runs in the 5th. And now another big play in this game, in the game 3, was when number 45 threw his 22nd pitch. Also, this play happened in the 2nd inning. There was a hit, and it actually made the score 2-2. And then Gordon slid into third, and they called him safe. And then they looked at the replay, and then they ended up calling him out. But so it made the score 2-2 in the 2nd. But check it out. Number 4 and the third baseman, number 5, the 45. And they even show these guys multiple times looking at the replay up on the screen or whatnot. The third base coach is number 23. But they show him even standing here, 54, 45, 2-2. Funny too, they never scored in the fifth, but going into the fifth, the score was 5-3 or 3-5, and Ventura even came out after 53 pitches. So he had 53 pitches, and that's when he came out of the game when the score was 5-3 or 3-5. I mean, man, I knew the Mets were gonna win this one for sure. It was just, it's too obvious. But it's just some interesting things, like literally how they lost 3-9, or the Royals lost 3-9, or the Mets won 9-3. Now you got to go check out this video. I know probably most of my subscribers are already subscribed to him, but he posted this video earlier today talking about the Mets coming back and winning the World Series and whatnot. And I still think Kansas City is going to win it, only because of the Pope connections and whatnot. But he talks about New York adding up to 39. It's the Empire State, 30 died. Whatever. You can come watch this video. It's so ridiculous. But for anybody who is new or whatever, and you've never heard of him, come check it out. He called this game like no other. Even the Royals' last pitcher was number 30 died. I mean, come on now. They lose 3-9. There's all the 39 connections to New York. Then even the guy who threw the game for the Royals, I guess you can't really say throw the game because they were losing anyway, but it was a big play that pretty much everybody knew the game was over after that. And if you got to know he rigged that. You got to know that. There's no way. And the odds that he adds up to the same thing as New York Mets and Queen Elizabeth. The Mets even play in Queens. Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day of the year. New York adds up to 111. Another reason I think that it's going to at least go to Game 6 is because Kauffman Stadium adds up to 168. So I think whoever is going to win in Kauffman Stadium. I really think it's going to be the Royals still. And for another reason why I say that is because I'm telling you, there's a ton of Pope references to the Royals. But Chris Young's dad also died this year. He's going to pitch the next game tomorrow. His dad died on the first day that the Pope was in Philadelphia this year, and then he pitched a 5-0 shutout, or a 5-inning shutout. So he pitches tomorrow. And the reason that's interesting is because it's 35 days after his dad died. Seems like, I guess tonight, Ventura came out with 53 pitches, and the score was 3-5. But in Game 1, Hosmer, number 35, hit the game-winning sacrifice fly, and then this guy, Escobar, adds up to 53, and he scored at the very last run of the game. He also scored the in-the-park home run in the very beginning of the game, so I don't know. I just think it's coded to Pope Francis. He's been a big part of this year, and also it stands out with just the Royals. The Queen is actually coded to both of these teams, so Pope Francis is coded to the Royals. I haven't really seen anything that really connects to the Mets through Pope Francis other than the fact that Pope Francis went to New York this year. And then he even pitched this game on the last day that Pope Francis was in the United States. But also, like, literally, this article just came out 6 hours ago. Some little kid dressed as the Pope in the Pope Mobile at the White House wins the Halloween prize or whatever. I mean, it's it's just a joke. Oh, man. And the Pope came to the White House this year on 9/23 at 9:23 a.m. The power outage or whatever, the game signal being lost on TV, and it came back on at 9:23. Another interesting thing that doesn't necessarily have to do with any prediction, it's just a long time ago, in some of my very first videos, I talked a lot about the numbers 55 and 59, and I said how they went together because in 2014, they were mirror years. 1959 was 55 years ago. 1955 was 59 years ago. It seemed like every time I found it, it dealt with something dealing with like an Antichrist character and movies and whatnot. And I just find it interesting. They both add up to the same thing, 54. And 54 and 45 have been a really big deal in the Major League playoffs this year. Tons of other things. It's been in all three of the games. It's been a significant thing. in all 3 of these World Series games. If you even add up Pope Francis as the Antichrist, it adds up to the same day that he became Pope. Also want to point out Obama is 54 years old this year. Really makes you wonder. I mean, who knows? But also, just 54 in its mirror, so 54 adds up to 54. And also 45, the mirror of 54 adds up to 54. There's just a lot of coding that's been going on recently, and it deals with a lot of this stuff. So even 600, 3 scoring 6. I know I've pointed this out a ton of times, but it adds up to the same thing as Pope Francis as the Antichrist. Also the same day Pope Francis became the Pope. We've seen a ton of 322 and 223 references in the last couple weeks with like Flip Saunders and other things, but literally this game tonight was 3 hours and 22 minutes. I was going to talk a little bit about Kobe Bryant in another video. I might not get it made tonight, but Kobe Bryant last year, I talked about his ties to the Timberwolves and whatnot and how he broke Michael Jordan's record, but also last year on the 322nd day of the year, he got 32,000 points. I mean, so like I said, there's just a ton of coding. I don't know. Hopefully I can make some of these videos tomorrow. This blimp thing even ties into a lot more than what I realized. I want to make a video on that as well. I want to get away from sports a tiny bit. I've been doing a lot of sports stuff, but also there's a lot of games and whatnot on right now. So I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow. Oh man, I have to DJ, so I probably won't even get to watch the game until Sunday. But whatever. Have a good night.